o'clock, so we'll call the meeting of the Mitchell Park Recreation and Forestry Department meeting to order. Public input. Anybody that we know? Okay, we'll go on to delegations.
We have Steve Rice here. Is that okay?
Yep. Okay. Good evening. My name is Steve Rice. I'm a resident of the city of Mitchell, and I've lived across the street from Patton Young Park for the last 35 years. I could probably, if you had more time, tell you all sorts of stories about how the parks are used in the city of Mitchell and how they're used, abused, and everything else. But I've had email conversation back and forth with the parks representatives, and I wanted to bring to your attention kind of my user experience of trying to navigate the online reservation system, not just for Patton Young Park, but for the whole system. And I know, because I sit on the other side of the table from the city council side, that we're pushing to go to online reservation to try and be more streamlined, to try and make that more efficient. But I wanted to give you my experience with the user interface and dealing with that. So it started in January, and I had the question of I wanted to rent Patton Young Park Pavilion at the end of July. And I can't remember if I called Angel or sent an email, but I went online and looked, and it said it's all unavailable, and Angel's response was, you only can rent it 120 days in advance. And maybe I talked to Angel, I can't remember if it was an email or not, but I know I said it was the end of July, and she said, yep, go 120 days in front of that and go on and look, and if you have any issues, give me a call. So fast forward a couple months, and the end of March, I go online and I'm looking for the end of July rental, and all the dates at the end of July are already unavailable, even ones that are 121 and 122 and 125 days out. They're all unavailable. And so I send an email to Angel. I said, what's the deal here? These are all unavailable. Are they all rented? You know, it's rented every day then is what it appears to if you look on the internet. Well, the response was, if we have summer parks programs, we block out the day for the rental pavilions. And I kind of went, well, that's interesting. It's not rented and you're blocking it out. But I said, is that true for all of the pavilions? Well, yeah, if we have a summer program, we block them out. So I go and look at Hitchcock Park, and I look, well, there's tennis lessons and there's swimming lessons and other things, but I can rent the pavilion there. Well, so clearly it's not, if there's a summer program at the park, the pavilion is blocked. And I have continued conversation with Angel. He said, oh yeah, but at Patton Young Park, we have Dakota Kids there from 1 until 3 or 1 until 3 or 1 until 4. So we block it out because we don't want to have issues of multiple people renting the pavilion at the same time during the same day, because there have been issues of crossover and those types of things. And I can tell you for sure, living across the street for 35 years, I've seen plenty of crossover issues for the rental of that pavilion over the years. So I guess I understand that. But if the city has a policy that you can't rent it for 120 days in advance, why is the city parks department blocking it out for their use? And that's not a rental, and they're doing it more than 120 days in advance. That doesn't seem to be following the policy. So I had that conversation, and they said, well, come and tell us about your user experience. I said, the navigation to that and other things is fairly easy. I found it a little weird that you could free type in whatever dates that you wanted. You got a couple free-form fields in the user interface, which from a software standpoint really probably shouldn't be there. But I find it interesting that we want to make this streamlined and efficient. And if I go back 3 years ago, I could have rented the pavilion with one phone call And to get to this point, I've had 3 phone calls and 5 email conversations. And talking with Angel, we can look at that and know that nobody else is renting it, yep, and if you call, we can take a look at that. And I successfully was able to get it rented for the night that I wanted. However, I was charged for a full day, even though I can't rent it for a full day. But I'll get over that, but I think that should also be looked at. But if we're making this more streamlined, and I know the online thing is the way to go, but if I call the Park and Recs department, I don't think I should be sent from place to place to place to place to sign up and be told to look online, when if I call them and somebody helps me go online, they could take care of my rental in probably 5 minutes. And I wouldn't have to call back, I wouldn't have to look to see what's happening, I wouldn't have to question why are these all blocked out more than 120 days in advance. And that's my issue. I'm just asking you to look at that going forward. I want to recommend that we try and make it as streamlined as possible, with as few as phone calls as possible and with as few as touches as possible. But somehow, if the city is going to block those out as saying unavailable, it should just say unavailable from 1 until 3 or 1 until 4. And maybe that's a software change you need to talk with your software supplier about. And if you, and I know from experience, and I've seen, I don't know if I want to call them fights or altercations of people leaving and people coming and people not cleaning up their things at the park as it goes from one to the other. But there are many weekday nights that people have rented that pavilion, and the way that it looks right now is you can't rent it any weekday night other than Friday in the whole month of the end of May, the whole month of June, and the whole month of July, and the first 2 weeks of August. If you wanted to rent that pavilion on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, and use the internet, the online to do it, it's not possible. And I just think that needs to be looked at. So I know this is just a public input type thing, and I thank you for your time, and it can come up as a discussion item in the future for you, or next year figure out that better. But phone calls going back and forth to Angel of this, it kind of gave me a aha moment when I tried to call Angel and I got forward to her phone and I got her voicemail, and her voicemail says, if you're calling about the online rentals, please go to the internet first and navigate to the one you want, and then if you still have problems, please give me a call. My number is 990-8460 or whatever the number is. And if we've gotten to the point that Angel has to put that on her voicemail, then maybe something's not working right with the online system. So that's all I have. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Steve. Yep. Anyone have any comments on that? Those are all valid concerns that we've been looking at and trying to address with our new online system. Not only that, if Angel's not in the office, it's a nightmare for me because I can't do anything. So, so we do have to address some of these issues, and it's probably more than just the few things that were mentioned here. But you know, Kevin, you want to comment on the software?
Not necessarily, but we don't use that part of it. Like the campground uses a totally separate one. So Angel is kind of the guinea pig with their reservation system for this. So I think it's just a matter of getting in touch with one of their tech people and making those, like Steve said, making those notes on those days where, you know, it's not available from 9 to noon or 1 to 4, available after 5. And, you know, as far as the rental fee being cheaper for after that, that's something that for another day. But I think it's just a matter of getting a hold of their tech people and working with them. And I'm sure Angel's probably got calls into them. Sometimes they're not the greatest at getting back to you right away, but it's something they're going to have to work with Angel on. So
it took us almost a year, I'd say, to get this set up. It seemed like it was a while. So it's just going to be kind of a slow process, and maybe we pull it until we can get it all the
right. You know, some of the biggest concern too is, I know it took a long time to get it set up, is, you know, the obviously revenue that we could be, well, not could be, that we probably are losing just because I think we all know how people in society are today, that if something doesn't cooperate, typically they just, boom, they just move on, or they can't get it, or they look at it, they're just, all right, let's go and move on. I mean, I've done it with motel reservations where I've looked at a motel and online it says full, I call directly, oh yeah, we got plenty of rooms. Whatever it may be, it is what it is, but, that's how some people are, but a lot of people these days, they just move on and go past it, and then they don't book anything, and I'm just, concerned about maybe possible some revenue that we could be losing. It's not nobody's fault, but I agree with what Steve was saying, that we need to get it addressed, and I know Steve mentioned there that, maybe by next year we try to do something. I think next year in my book is probably too long. It might be something where until we get it fixed or maybe working correctly, we might have to pull it down for the time being and do it the old way. And I'm not trying to put more work on your shoulders, Angel, but I just don't want us missing out on some possible rentals of our facilities that we have here in Mitchell, so.
The only thing is our revenue is really good this year with our rentals. So I don't know, that might be helping, but there just might be some things that we need to work out to make
Well, and a
it.
big help for me would be to have a better city website. When the biggest issue that I have is trying to navigate people where they need to go, because when you click on the City of Mitchell website, right on the main page, I have no place to direct them. So when people call and they're like, I've got on the City of Mitchell website, I don't see where to go, and then I have to tell them, okay, go under your government, move down a drop-down menu, go under your department, click on Park and Rec. When you click on Park and Rec, then so the IT person and I came up with like a quick cheat. If you type in the name of the shelter, you can we've kind of backdoored it that way where it'll take you where you need to go. But when a person gets on the city website, which is what the first thing they do, there is nothing there for them, no help. So right there, we get that complaint all the time about the campground. So no, I'm not the city website person.
Yeah. Maybe we have to take a look at it, obviously the upper level a little bit, because I agree. I think I can concur with you. I've been on our website, and it's not exactly the most user-friendly one.
Yeah.
Now, it was nice that I couldn't get to my name, but it's not nice when you're trying to move around and try to get to some things that we wanted to before. So maybe we got to take a look at it with addressing it with Bob and obviously Stephanie a little bit more, too, to try to get the IT to redirect it a little bit better. So.
Yep, and we've changed the, I've been working on it with Stephanie. We've changed so when you go City of Mitchell /shelters, and you can go right to it. So you don't have, it doesn't have all these numbers behind it that you have to put in, because you can't explain the website because it was, a mile long. We're just using the word shelters right at the end, so you can go right to it. So hopefully we'll get that up and running this week. It was supposed to be up, but I tried it earlier today and I couldn't get it going that way, but we'll get it there.
Okay. No, do what I can do to help out, too, to get something changed a little bit. So.
Yeah. A little work in progress. We appreciate the input from Steve. Yeah, okay. All right.
I agree with that.
And we'll do a follow-up next month on the. Uh-huh. Okay, we can do a follow-up next month, just kind of let you know how we progressed on this issue. Whoop. Oh, does it?
Yep. And honestly, people that have had problems, they call, and I walk them right through it on the phone. So, I realize we might be losing some people, but a good majority of people just call and have patience to have me walk them through it. So.
Yeah, we don't have to get you there, you take care of it.
Yeah, so.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Angel, for all you do. Any additions or deletions to the agenda? If not, I need a motion to accept the agenda.
So moved.
Second? All in favor? Say aye. Passed. Approval of the minutes. Has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes? Any questions, comments? Everybody has read them and approves. May I get a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting?
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass. Approval of the bills.
Okay, I'll start with the revenue, and from this point forward, our revenue is going to look much better than last year, so that's a good thing. We are doing better than our first 3 months last year. Again, shelter rentals are way up. The rec center is doing very well, very close to last year. So we continue to see growth there. Let's see, that's page 3, so I'll take you to page 6, just to update you on the sports complex. In repair and maintenance budgets getting way up there. We're already at $29,000. Most of that has to do with the compressor room that we are looking at replacing hopefully this summer. Council is in the process of approving some funds for the refrigeration system at the North Rink. On page 1 of the campground's up 4 times where we were last year at the same time. So we anticipate a really busy summer there at the campground. Page 28 of the bills, capital improvement, professional services at the rec center. This has to do with the design for the new pool room. And page 29, 10,096. It says steel door, but that is the shed for the school next to the ice arena there. So we're providing them with that shed this year, and that's not a door, that is a shed. And then Dakota Supply on page 33 for $1,200. Again, just a hand dryer for parks. Page 34, $11,400 for Alltech Industries. That is a repair for the bucket truck. And then $2,800 for some ceiling fan lighting, replacing that to LED, and replacing the old lights to LED lights for $2,800. See if there's anything else. All right, continue on, page 27. For the rec center, $1,500 for a pool pump, and we had to replace the pump there. Page 29, sports complex for $1,400, adding some electrical circuits for the bumper cars for $1,400. Page 30, compressor repairs, $2,600 or $2,594 on page 30 for the sports complex. Another $11,000 in R22 for the sports complex. Again, you can see that we're continually repairing that, and that's why we're getting that replaced this year. And that's all I have.
Question on page 36,
Yeah.
there's a charge for consulants. I believe that's for the flooding hill.
That's for the Firesteel Park design. That's correct.
Why is it under the campground?
We did take that to council. That was because it involves the cabin and the revenue so the jetty and the cabin would go into that revenue once we get that completed. So it's part of it. It's an expansion for that area, for the cabins portion of it.
Because the cabins are in that area,
Yeah.
we're trying the park design for.
Yeah, well, yeah, we did ask council for it. It's the only place we had revenue to use, so.
Any other questions, comments?
Yeah,
Is that to try to clear all of the equipment out of that back end of the ice arena?
that's correct.
So it's no longer that portion is no longer school district
That's-
usage.
That's correct. Originally, the agreement was to provide them with a shed. And so we sat down with Dr. Graves and developed came up with a design that would work, and we're going to go ahead and put them in a shed. I can't remember what the size was. Jeremy's not here today, but it's approximately the size of that room. But that is a heated shop, and
Yeah.
and we're using it for cold storage, and that heated shop space is valuable to us.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Can I have a motion to approve the bills? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Carried. We'll move on. Any old business? If not, new business. Department reports. Kevin?
I'll just quick recap what we got going on. All of our fall, winter programs are wrapped up, completed actually last night with Men's League. So we're moving on basically to summer stuff. Our summer brochure came out in the paper yesterday, and it's online, and it'll go to the schools tomorrow. And you can start registering online on April 19th. And so that's a couple, I talked about this before, but we decided to delay it by a couple weeks just because we kind of thought it was too early to do it in early April. And so we're starting it a little bit later, so give people a little more chance to look over things. So Todd and Jamie right now are kind of finishing up with the hiring of their summer staff. Still need a few guards, I believe, Jamie, and Todd's got most of his staff hired already. As far as the rec center goes, March was really good. We were a little bit slower than February, obviously, because we had some really nice weather during that time. But once basketball and wrestling got over, we saw a lot of the high school athletes the next day come back in and start working out already, and so that was good to see. And then the state meet that we held here went really well. I think we had our last board meeting right before the state meet. It was very well attended. Everybody did their thing with the masks, but there was a ton of people, so it was good to see. But they all did what they were supposed to do, and it went really well. And I want to thank, since Jamie's here too, I want to thank Joe and Jamie for all the help all the work they did leading up to that meet and getting the pool ready for that big event. So. Other than that, we are gonna start a new yoga class next week. We've been looking for a certified yoga instructor for a long time, and one fell in our lap and came and asked if she could start. So Jerry Beck's going to start a class once a week to start, and hopefully it can grow into a few more per week. So we're going to start that, and that's about it. Anybody got any questions?
Thank you, Steve, or Kevin. Steve?
Well, we've been continuing with our tree removals. If we get about a week and a half of good weather, we should be done with that. But last couple of weeks, ever since that snowstorm, it's either been windy or rainy. Can't get much done with them. Did a lot of tree cleanup, branch cleanup from that snowstorm. Maintenance on equipment, getting it ready for the summer. We installed a self-pay station at the campground that will take debit and credit cards for some of the overnight traffic if they don't have cash or check. The machine's installed. We're just working out some of the bugs as far as getting the batteries working, solar panels, stuff like that. So it's up and operational. Hopefully next week we can get that up and going. Just been prepping the floor in the enclosed shelter. We just had some old kind of epoxy paint on the floor. We're going to kind of put in some tile, what's like up at the rec center in the lobby. Hopefully it will withstand a little more abuse. Replaced our light fixtures in our shop and break room with LED lights. Made repairs to the west end boat dock and got that in the water. We did our playground inspections, and we got them batteries in them 2 playgrounds. And we are also advertising, hiring for seasonal help, and we still could use a few more college kids and high school kids, so if anybody knows anybody, tell them to apply. And other than that, we've just been starting to clean up the parks and lakes access areas for the summer. Any questions?
So the self-pay station at the campground, is that linked to the website for reservations, or how does it know which sites are open and available?
You select your site there, right there, and there's instructions that tell them to go get their site before they pay.
So do you have to update it every day to let you know that this site's reserved by?
No, because you can't reserve within 48 hours, so we have enough time to get the slips on there. It says that site's reserved, and we have hosts that are daily that are
That's a
doing
manual
that.
process?
It is still a manual process, but when hosts aren't there, they're still able to pay, or they don't have to pay cash anymore, which is the main thing we were trying to get away from.
Can it be used for rentals too?
Yep, for firewood and boat rentals and bike rentals, all that stuff can be done right there.
Thanks, Steve. Nate, are you giving a report for Jeremy?
Yeah, he's not here. I don't really have anything to add other than what he's written down. They did get their sprinklers going today, and I hear that went well, so that's always a good sign when you turn it off and things aren't blowing up. So we could use some good news out there this year. So, but that's their revenue for the ice arena is doing very well again this year as well. So people are getting out and recreating a little bit more, I think, and that's good. I can just go right into my report if you don't have any questions for sports complex. Just a few items here I highlighted. We did our loss control safety inspections this month, and each division had maybe 1 or 2 items that they had to address, but they're doing very well with safety. It's very important. The Diamond Bright warranty issue at the indoor pool, again, we have that heaving going on. We plan on draining and getting that repaired this summer. We'll do both pools at the same time. The zip line warranty as well. The company built a new unit. It's completely different, but it's the same concept, and they're gonna ship us a new one, and we'll be getting that probably in the next month or 2, so we can finally be done with that issue. And then the ice arena warranty roof, again, we had a little bit of leaks with the rain with the new portion. It's just some separation between the 2 roofs, and the water was getting in. So they're going to come out under warranty and get that fixed for us, and that should solve that issue. Any other questions?
Any guarantees on the roof?
What's that?
Any guarantees that the roof will actually fix this thing?
We are very confident.
Seems like I've heard that before.
Okay, thank you. Then on to B, action to approve updated guidelines for addressing harmful algae blooms in Lake Mitchell.
Okay, the only update that we have here is we've been doing, it's called cylindrospermopsin testing. We've been testing that for 2 years. We've had no issues, so we want to discontinue that testing. It'll save us some money on the test strips and some staffing time, and we feel it has no effect on our testing. That's the only change that I have.
Do we need a motion?
Yes, I would need a motion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any questions about that?
How do you decide which tests to run? I mean, how do we come up with the original?
The EPA has standards for 2, and it's microcystin and cylindrospermopsin, and we only had an issue with microcystins, and most agencies only do microcystins. Some just do visual as well, but microcystins are the main toxin. And it pretty much tells you if that toxin's high, you're going to have a bunch of others. There's probably 40 different toxins that you could test, but if that's high, that's good enough.
Other questions? If not, I need a motion to approve the updated guidelines. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. The next one is an action to update the life jacket policy to allow puddle jumper style life vests.
Okay, so we're doing a review this month, is just getting ready for summer of our policies at both the indoor and the outdoor pool. The park board banned life vests in 2018. We do need to review the puddle jumpers because we have been allowing it at the indoor pool, and it's the puddle jumper style. And I put a picture in the. You want to pull that picture up, Angel? There you go. The top one is puddle jumpers, and the bottom ones are vests. So this is not a request to approve the life vest. It's a request to approve the puddle jumpers. But if it's Jamie's here to answer your questions and be good for the board to review and decide if they want to allow these. A lack of a motion or a lack of a second or no majority vote that'll be a no. And Jamie, if you have any questions, Jamie's here.
I guess just to give you our view, right now we do allow them, but we're not in favor of that. And so we're actually looking to ban those as well, any flotation devices. And the reasoning, some of the reasoning behind that is, number one, our insurance does not recommend it. Our HR person does not recommend it. And they gave us a little statement that things have changed kind of on the views of life jackets in the last 10 years. And they have been put in their response, which is something that we've always said, and Jamie's always said, that it gives a false sense of security to the parent. And just an example, I mean, anybody 5 years and under has to be within an arm's reach of their child. And when you put those kind of devices on them, they kind of think those rules go away, and that creates that false sense of security, and that's where you have the issues. And just a week and a half ago, not during open swim, but during the day when a mother had their very young child there, I don't know if it was under the age of 2, and they had the flotation device on. Nobody else was in the pool, but she got up and left to go to the bathroom and left their child in the pool with the device on it. And so those are the fears that we have, and that's why we are not in favor of any flotation devices. And Aberdeen, Watertown, Brookings, Sioux Falls, they all don't allow it as well. So
in the email, Angel, you can pull up those emails. So the email that I sent you gave all the cities that do and don't. I don't think Aberdeen was on there, and Kevin said they do not. And then the insurance one was the other email, Angel, that we sent on the 22nd. Again, they're allowing it, but it would ultimately be up to the board here based on staff recommendations. Or questions?
Whatever they want to bring in, and I'm sure, cross-contamination, other things are affected, but I do personally and professionally think that under certain guidelines or allowing just the puddle jumpers, which are known to be at this time the safest life jacket for a child, that we could increase our revenue, and I don't personally know the people who would return to our system. It's horrible that parents leave their kids. I can't believe that, and I would never do that either, but I won't take my kids with having one that can smell blood and a brand new infant without passing them on to a puddle jumper anymore. So I see it both ways. I just think that we can improve the city's indoor and outdoor with the possible use of puddle jumpers.
It is,
That's just my own personal
Right
opinion.
now, it is.
it is the number one request that we get, for pool, what parents want to have. I mean, that's why we keep revisiting this and why it keeps coming back up, because we don't allow it. We have been allowing it, yes, Mr. Norton, at the indoor pool, in
But not
review.
at the outdoor pool.
Not at the outdoor pool, no.
Yeah. So what you're saying is you didn't get it because of the outdoor pool rule, not the,
Yeah, technically, depending on when you go, sometimes they say yes and sometimes they say no indoor. And
Yeah, I know, and we've had that discussion. Nathan and I had a miscommunication, so I've always said no. Nathan and I, somewhere along the lines, there was a miscommunication. So some of my guards were getting information from me, some were taking what Nathan had said at one point in time, and so my younger guards are the ones who usually are like, yeah, go ahead, because the way some of these people have been yelling and disrespecting the authority, some of them, my older guards, they have no issue enforcing it. We've had many staff meetings where, I have to then reprimand the kid for not following the policy either, and the rules, and so we've been going the past few weeks really just stressing, we want you in the water, we want you within an arm's reach of your kid. I understand it's hard, but you have to be there. And to be completely honest, 7 out of 10 are getting to be super nice and they understand, but you do have those few that are just not nice. And I've got 15 and 16-year-olds working at the indoor pool, and a handful of college kids who help out on the weekend. So I just, after seeing people just walk out and leave their kid, I'm farther and farther where I want you in the water with your kid. I'm sorry.
I still think that should be, I 100% agree.
Yeah.
I mean, my daughter is great swimmer, she's still halfway drowned, you have to stay right next to her, I'm right next to her, so I 100% agree, but I would feel much more confident if puddle jumpers were out, and I'll pay daily fees instead of a membership to go indoor if I didn't, or if I prefer the outdoor, but I still think it would make a better improvement and more people would go, I honestly do, because I have people that drive to small towns, and I don't think, but there's a whole bunch of different inflatable stuff that they can bring at those schools. I think the puddle jumper would make a big difference.
The puddle jumper is for 50 pounds or less, so that's about that 48-inch mark once you start going on the slides and stuff. So these are for kids that are not able to go on the slides or the play features that we have. Is there a height requirement for the wall or anything?
The rock wall?
Yeah.
Is there any way to do a time where they can, and a time where they can't?
I think we're opening a can of worms if we do that.
Yeah.
I mean,
When you look
I've already got people who come on Saturday morning because they know there's no guards and they can let their kids do what they want. They're going off the diving board, and then we have to go back from the front desk and we have to say the diving board is closed, or they're climbing the rock wall, or they're using the zip line when it was open. I mean, we've got people that are finagling their way around it right now all the time.
It's not an easy answer, but the board does need to make a call on this.
I'm against letting people use flotation devices. I just, way back when I lifeguarded, I'd see kids jump in because they weren't being supervised, they weren't being watched closely and get in trouble, and I just feel like parents are going to watch it closer if they're not in those devices. And I also don't like the outside. I mean, I've seen people that are on the river and then come in the next day and they have the same life jacket they were using with me on the river the day before. And we've been at pools at
And that's
hotels.
another
And
fear of mine, Chris, is I don't want the algae from Lake Mitchell coming into the pool. If they're out there water skiing or tubing.
My thought on it, just mine's independent of Kevin and Jamie, but is the best way to do it is to provide a life vest that you rent, and but you have to fit the children. It take a little bit of extra effort on our end, but that's kind of the only safest way, I think, to do it. Otherwise, they're bringing it in from the outside. So, but that's a whole nother discussion.
That is, and I did have a discussion with our HR director about that, and Nathan, I don't know if you talked to her about that or not, but she was 100% against us giving anything, because then we are extremely liable for that if we fit them wrong or, you name it, so.
I guess my look is like Chris, what the experts say and what the, I'm not one to give my opinion or when I'm looking at what the people that are in charge are thinking and what they think is the safest for everybody involved, not just for a few here or there or whatever the case may be. So the general public, I guess, safety and what the lifeguards have to put up with and because it is hard for, like Jamie said, it's hard for high school kids to tell and try to enforce rules that people don't want to follow. So just getting rid of those makes it a lot safer in all aspects, I think.
One of my son's girlfriend, one of her employees, I asked her about this immediately, it wasn't even, no. She said it's a pain, that's just what she told me. That they have them, it's difficult on them.
I struggle when I go because there's 2 lifeguards and then there's 4 sitting in the office.
And we've had that discussion, they're no longer doing that, so.
That's good.
So that's squashed and taken care of.
Right, and it's not just me, it's public. When I bring this up or other people bring it up to me, it's a public thing seeing that. I'm sure it will probably continue to come up because people are going to complain about it. And it's what you guys do decide. I'll still promote it because I want to go to the pool. I want to take my daughter there. It's not that it's not safe for her without a life jacket because I'll still be there, but I can grab onto that latch on a therapist, right? What's that back latch for? It's for me to hold it. They push them to lean back. It's, like I said, it's number one most important. As a physical therapist, I don't want any child in it, but obviously I want to go to the pool with my children, and this is the one thing that always me. It's just some bad parents ruined it for us. That's what happened. One bad egg is ruining us all for everybody else. It sucks. So.
We had that same problem. I have 2 kids close in age, and my wife wouldn't go alone because my son would want to go. He's a good swimmer. He'd want to take off, and my daughter would want to stay in 1 inch. And it stunk. So we just, either we both went or we didn't go.
That involves, too, when you have so many people at the pool, too, when you're trying to harness. And then there's that sense of security, too, when you don't watch them as closely when they're in the vest, and then they get away from it, and then you have another issue. You have more issues then. So.
And we completely understand people wanting to use the puddle jumpers. It's not that we don't, we get it. It's just, from a liability standpoint, it just takes one, and luckily the other day Jamie was there in her office to see what happened. So, not that anything would have happened necessarily, but you never know. And so that's the angle that we come from. We're trying to decrease our liability.
So if we don't do a motion, you'll enforce the no puddle jump over rule?
That's correct. So if there's a lack of a motion, we'll move on, and we'll no longer allow it at the indoor pool because it was never approved by the board to begin with. So the confusion came, I think, was the discussions before the last time we voted on this, and I guess I assume that life jackets included puddle jumpers at the time, and we'll just continue that thought process. So you can ask for if there is a motion in a second here, and then the other thing is, I just want to reiterate, we did talk to the insurance, and the insurance does allow it. It does allow it, and the same in the other cities that are there. So I mean, we've crossed that bridge, I guess. They didn't in too when they talked here, but the trend is going towards life vests. You got to think about people with disabilities and people with the grandparents maybe that can't get in the water with their children aren't even able to come then. So those are the things that you got to remember and think about when we're talking about this. And then the other thing, so that's really where I wanted to kind of leave it, I guess, is just remember those people as well, that it would be a help, and they would come. They won't come to our pool because we do not have it, and we do get the complaint. So I know that I'm hearing it. They're telling me, and that's why we brought it to you today. So keep that in mind, and I'll go ahead and let Mary Ellen kind of take it from there.
Is there a motion to allow puddle jumpers? Is there a second?
So then it dies.
It dies. The next one is motion to update the vortex policy language to open swim rather than guarded times. Nathan, can you explain that to the rest of the board?
Yeah, same thing here. So right now, the policy that was approved, I don't have the date here. It would have been 2018 because we're 3 years into the new pool, so that's why we're reviewing some of these policies. The 48-inch height requirements for guarded times only, and 14 when not guarded. I think our current policy, or what we've been doing, is 14 all the time. I think it was, the intention was correct, but the follow-through wasn't there. So we need to, like the board to review that and to let me know what direction they would like to go. We do have guarded pools during open swim, of course. And if you're 14 and in that vortex pool, there is a guard watching you, so it is guarded. And I don't want to imply that. We also have other times where it is guarded for events and different things, but we don't want people in the vortex, of course, during that time, or kids. So just using the word guarded, I thought was inaccurate. So we could either do 14 all the time, or the action here is to update it to open swim. If you want to change it, I guess we would have to talk about that.
And I'm guessing, I'm wondering what Kevin and Jamie have to say about this.
I guess what we have found with it, and Mary Ellen, you've been in there quite often. I mean, it gets used a lot by adults for therapy, for a workout, and the issue that we see, if we allowed younger than 14 in there during our open swim, is then those adults would not be able to use it for their therapy or their workout. And I look at it as the youth during open swim have the slides, they have the zip line when it's working, they have the rock wall and all the other spaces in those two pools to use, and really the adults have a couple lanes for lap swim and that for their use. And it does get used during that open swim time by adults. And so you take that away from them, if there's kids in there splashing around or whatever, then they can't use it for what they're using it for. So,
Jamie, anything?
Well, my thing, just like right now, after school, when we do have open swim, Adam and Thomas do have some athletes who are doing their therapy in there or doing their workout in there. So I'm just going to throw out, you've got a 2-foot basketball player in there, and you throw a 48-inch little second or third grader in there. Sometimes they're more of a hindrance and in the way. I don't know. It's hard because some of them can't touch. They get caught in the current at the bottom of the orange slide, and the current in the vortex is stronger than the current under the orange slide. That's my only fear. We have pulled kids out of there, little kids who are 48 inches who, sneak in there or tell us they're 14 at the time. So, I mean, we have had rescues in there, so that's have adults who want to use it during this time. I mean, Mary Ellen's been there during open swim at night, and she, we got a lot of ladies who are nurses or, at the bank, and they don't want to get their hair wet necessarily, so that's their place to come at night, work out, and they're not having to deal with kids, or they're not having to, to go in the weight room, there might be kids in there, or college kids in there, so I kind of just want to be respectful to our adult members and steer clear and keep it towards that, but,
Thanks. My personal opinion is, I'm 5'3", which is 15 inches taller than a 48-inch kid, and I have to work when I get into the vortex. I think it's a safety thing, 14-year-olds are probably getting closer to my height, or probably taller for that matter. But I just know that first part, getting around in that vortex, is hard work for me even, and I'm not a weakling. I know there are plenty of little ladies that are not as in good shape as I am. So and I also think that maybe it's a benefit of aging to limit it to 14-year-olds, but that's my opinion. So anybody else have an opinion on it?
I know when we originally voted on this 3 years ago, our intent was to let it be a play feature. Our intent was to let it be a play feature, and that's what other pools are doing. And I asked Jamie right away after it opened, because I noticed the 14-year-old sign, and she was talking about rescues at that time, how they're going in to pull kids out. So, is it safe to be a play feature? Kind of going along with Mary Ellen there, I don't.
And the reason why we're voting on both the life vest and the play this feature is because there's no industry standard. Life vests are made to be used and to be used safely, and the Vortex is made to be a play feature. That's what the manufacturer has said. I confirm that again just to make sure. They say the only regulation is whatever regulation you have in the pool, you have in that Vortex. And so that's why we have these discussions, though. What we're looking at it as from our facility in our pool and kind of independent of what everybody else is necessarily doing. But it is possible to do what we're doing, and the insurance is covered.
I feel like on the record, or being part of the city, then we get as many as things possible to do, right? Awesome crocodile, wonderful, but it's a vortex pool outfit, and it's going to bring in more revenue, and if they say it's safe, if they think it's safe, I would be for it, but I can see kids having fun in there, also making other older ladies upset, which I can see is also safe too.
And we're not, and there's no ask to change the outside of open swim time. It's still 14, age 14. That falls within our rec center policy for weight rooms and all the other, facilities there that we have.
Any other comments? Then I will ask for a motion to let anybody in over 48 inches
It's just during open swim.
during open swim.
That's correct.
I do have one more question. So if we allow this at 48 inches, does that mean we're going to have a lifeguard standing at the entrance and measuring like we do, going up a staircase?
Well, that's my other thing. They're going to have to, whether I do wristbands, which is more of, have to go back and everybody has to wear, at the outdoor pool, we make them wear a wristband because the height thing got broke at the top of the slide. So forever ago, when Billy was here, we moved it back into the office, and then now they get measured inside because we don't want to spend the money to buy another one. But I can do wristbands at the indoor pool if they're 48 inches, but it's going to take education for the people. We're going to have to start measuring them, because right now we just measure them at the slide, send them down, and then if we,
How tall is the wall? Right there. How tall is the wall? It's gotta be darn close.
about here on me, I think, so I'm not sure.
As you're walking in,
I
yeah,
would think that if you would top that.
you'd have to look at that.
Well, the water's lower than, you guys,
Right.
so I think there's maybe a foot between the water, you think, Kevin? Between the water and the top?
Jamie probably knows every kid in there, but that's coming in here, but you'd have to ask the same thing with the age, you know, how you confirming the age. I've seen 12-year-olds that look like they're 18.
That's just it, I mean, it's the same thing with whether it's 48 inches or 14, I mean, when a kid's not gonna say, well, I know I can't be 14, so I'm gonna be 14 today. I mean, there's no way to check that at all, like, it's pretty ambiguous at 14. But 48 at least is something real, like 14 is
You
just
guys have
something.
that measure, and you have that little, you can just say, community it out, show me on that. But I feel like that wall would be a good analysis. You need to spend money on wristbands, that's another chore you have to do, so.
I'm just worried we're gonna have more arguments for these 15-year-olds with adults and kids. Why won't you let my kid in? And they're used to not using it today. I don't know, I'm mixed feelings here.
I feel like the pool is, at least in my personal case, the pool is underused. I think that thing is so awesome. And then, how many people do you see top in a week at one time in there? Kids, what do you think? Depending on the day of the week, today I had probably 60. Nice, that's awesome. Tuesdays and Thursdays are our heavy days. Is that after school program then? Yep, and Wesleyan, and swim team. Swim team's obviously taking a break right now. Wednesdays are a slow day, probably 5, but we're only open till 6. Saturdays and Sundays, we have, when I did lifeguard training the other week, I bet we had, throughout the day, rotating 150, 100. I mean, it was packed. We had to not get in for lifeguard training, and we had to go back to the classroom and do classroom stuff, and then get back in the water when it was closed at 6. It's busier since Christmas, since COVID got, you know, kind of going. I mean, it's busier than some people think. I mean, and there's a lot of people we don't know who come in and use the facility. A lot of, I mean, and last year when we were the only pools open, both the pools were hopping all the time. So.
So you're seeking a motion, you said?
I'm seeking a motion.
Motion is to change it to 14.
No, the motion is only to just say that it's permitted during open swim and not use the guarded under unguarded times, because it's only when Jamie is designated as an open swim time, that's the time that we would use it for 48 inches. And and Jamie, what days, can you let them know what days they have open swim?
So, open swims every day, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, 3:45 to 7:45, Wednesday, 3:45 to 6, Friday, 3:45 to 7:30, Saturdays and Sundays, 1 to 5.
So the motion is to allow 48 over during that time.
Yep, and all of the times it's going to be 14 years old, just the same as our rec center policy. And that's on an honor system most of the time, I would think, you know, I mean, we can monitor in cameras, but we're not always there.
Well, they're not allowed to, in order to even apply, they have to be
With a parent.
with a parent anyway. Not saying that they're not going into the pool and their parent is.
That's what I'm kind of, yeah. That's the only scenario, I guess, yeah. Is that correct, Kevin?
I didn't hear what you guys said.
What
What's
did you mean
your
by a
age-
fob?
Age requirements with fobs and coming into the rec center?
Bob, you have to be 18, and you only get the weight room and cardio room.
Yeah, the pool's not open after hours. Or after we close or whatever, so.
But
so
so
No, outside of swim time.
you have to be 18 to come in by
18.
yourself. So Andy's son, who's my daughter's age at 16, can't come into the pool without Andy unless there's a guard there. Or Andy comes with her.
Is there an age requirement for the weight room, Kevin, I thought?
The weight room is 14.
That's right.
But you can't be in there by yourself.
You can, as long as you've been trained first. Yes.
You can't gain access with the fob in the rest of the building unless you're 18.
After hours, correct. Yep.
Whether it's cool or not, I'm just wondering on the whole policy of the age.
18, you have to be 18 to get in after hours to the fob to use the weight room and stuff, yep, or come with a parent.
So yes, it's to maintain that 14 in open swim time, you would allow 48 inches in the vortex. And they have speeds.
I mean, to change, basically what you're saying is that 12 or 13-year-olds that are 48 inches tall would be complaining that they can't get in there, right? That'd be the change.
Wouldn't change that much.
Right, wouldn't change that much, right?
No.
Just younger, like 12, 11, 12, 13-year-olds that are tall, well, 48 inches, that's not gonna hurt.
40, that can be young.
Yeah, it's about,
I think my son's 40, he's just over 40 inches, he's 76 in July, so, I mean, could be pretty young.
Well, we've got
But-
first graders after school who are going down the slide and they're measuring 49 inches right now. So that's a 6, 7-year-old.
Yeah.
and they can control the speed on the vortex as well.
No, Nathan.
Oh, you can't?
I can, but me and Joe are the only ones who can go in. So if I leave at 7:45 at night, I've got to, and somebody comes in at 8 to want to water walk because nobody's there to turn it back up to 900 RPM.
I guess my question is,
You
where
mean-
is this request coming from? Like, where is the 48?
We haven't seen a ton of requests for this one. We've had more for the puddle jumpers than we have for this.
The request is coming from me because we're doing 14 all the time right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
When-
that's the request.
When the pool first opened, and I'd be there, I did get asked about that a lot. People were like, why can't we go in here, why can't the kids be playing at this other pool? And I asked Jamie at that time, and she just said they'd been in to rescue people, and it wasn't. And I just forwarded that on, and I haven't heard it since. It was just that first, I don't know, 6 months the pool was open.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Well, my kids don't even consider it anymore, they don't even.
That's what I'm wondering, like, most people don't consider it anymore, so would it really make that big of a difference, because they've already been told no, you know?
It wouldn't if you wanted to just go to age 14 all the time. So you could do one or the other, that's what we're asking. Because it's in the minutes that you approved it this way as guarded and unguarded. That's what's in the minutes, that's the way we should be operating. And if there's no motion to do anything, that's the way we're gonna go back to operating, we'd have to go back to, we still have to go to 48 inches regardless, tonight, unless you say, no, we're gonna stay at 14.
So if we want to say 14, I just need to make a motion, say 14.
That would be the motion, that's correct.
I guess I'll make the motion that's 14 at all times.
Is there a second? All in favor, say aye. All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? I believe it's passed. So it will stay at 14
That's
all the
correct.
time.
That's correct. Which is what we've been doing.
Okay, anything else anybody wants to bring up? Next meeting date is May 13th, 6 o'clock. Is that okay with the board? Meeting's adjourned.